session of Performance Art Dailies here in Toronto. This is a satellite activity of the 7011D Performance Art Festival, hosted by and sponsored by and paid for by the Toronto Free Gallery, organized by the Toronto Free Gallery, run by Heather Haynes, and supported through the now defunct Special Assistance for Performance Art program of the Canada Council. It's been a fabulous set of discussions so far. This is the last of our regular discussion periods. Tomorrow will be our final question period and also the closing panel of the festival. And instead of being here at Toronto Free Gallery, it will be at 2 o'clock at X Space, and that will be the closing event of the festival. What do I have to tell people today? I think Michael Fernandez continues performing in the neighborhood today until 5 o'clock. At various points, doing things with people. Is that the title? Yeah. You're here, so you're probably going to miss it. But Carlos Monroy is down at the St. Lawrence Market until 3 o'clock, and then this evening, of course, there's the regular performances at X Space beginning at 8 o'clock. Today's panel is hosted by Bojana Vidičanić, who performed in the first week of the festival. It was part of this process that we're sort of opening up the dialogue between local artists and visiting artists. So Bojana, of course, is one of our local artists who's agreed to initiate the discussion or keep the discussion going. And this whole process is really, to a large degree, about trying to open up the inevitable discussion that happens outside of the performances themselves to a larger public, and everything will be captured and eventually appear on the web, hopefully sooner than later. Okay, Bojana, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Okay. Thank you for that nice intro. I want to say good morning, but it's 12:30, so I feel like it's morning.
Festival time is definitely.
That's right. Yes. So let's just act as if it's morning. So I want to welcome everybody to the panel, and I just want to say, from my own personal kind of view, is that I'm really happy to have witnessed your performances last night. Really enjoy them, and I'm happy to be here to discuss certain things or aspects of your work. So I don't know how to do this. Maybe we should start from one end to the other. Who wants to? Pancho, are you more at ease with starting? Because Martin is kind of getting her groove. So are you okay with starting?
I'm close to the door, so I can start.
Good. Okay. So I guess I just wanted to kind of spend some time on the work that you've done for the festival, and maybe from there we can carry on some sort of discussion about what your larger works are and what, how performance as a practice figures in that. So what would you say I guess my question then for you, and I asked this last night, the relationship between the aesthetic and the political in the work, and the kind of improvisation that you had to do for last night's performance. So
I know that you said Mexican time, and it's true. I missed 1 week of the show because visa stuff, visa problems. Actually, I have to confess that it was a little bit my fault, but Paul should not listen that, because if you go to the embassy saying that I want a visa, but I can't left my passport because I'm going to go somewhere else, and they said, well, if you don't leave your passport, you cannot have a visa. And then I said, well, but if I leave my passport, I cannot go to San Francisco. So it was a mess. But anyway, at the end, I'm here. And it made me change a little part of my performance because I'm doing this series of performances using these fish tanks and different liquids. For example, I have been working with milk, with Coke, with water, tequila, wine, and orange juice, and different liquids, and different words, of course, no? Or sometimes I don't use a word, but I use something like situation, for example. No? Then yesterday I was going to use the word art, but I decided to use the word visa because it made more sense with the stuff I was living. And my project is just like to have this ephemeral moment of the explosion of the fish tank with the bat, but just speaking about to feel, you know, the process that whatever process in life that you are just you start something and then you go feeling how you say that, filling up of situations like a relationship or something. Sometimes it goes bad, and then it's full, and sometimes you are like pissed off of that, and then you cannot stop those situations, and then you would like to have a bat and destroy everything. But I think it's a metaphor. Is that word? And well, that's my idea, no? Like to create an ephemeral image and just I like how even it's anger stuff, you can have a beautiful image of the explosion, and well, that was like the idea, no? Like sometimes it's better to end something than to keep carrying that on you, no? And of course, I always, no, of course, I work with food because I love food. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I have my vice, no? I like to eat, and for example, I think I'm gonna work very soon with chocolate, but the thing is, I have been doing performances with food like for the last 15 years. I met Paul like 12 years ago when I came here, and I was public of the 7A, 11D, I don't know which issue, maybe the second or something like that. And I was doing another series I was working in that is called Formal Picnic, and I was eating in streets with a lot of people, like a picnic, but different because it was with no the regular rules of a picnic. I had a table, a folding table, folding chair, tablecloth check, and I was eating very formal food, and to see what happened with the people on the street. And I did that in some cities, in Quebec and Montreal and here in New York and in Mexico, of course. So that's the thing. I'm working with food, and I like it a lot, and I think food is full of images, and all this imaginary of food is very, very rich to work with. And well, I think that's like my stuff, no? Maybe I can give the microphone to somebody else, and then we can chat more.
Okay, we'll continue. So our next panel presenters are Sarah Latourneau, and Francis O'Shaughnessy, who are coming from Quebec. And they are a duo who perform together and also separately. And I was interested in watching your performance and how you worked together last night. And I was just interested in that relationship that you build through the work, and what working together accomplishes and how it enriches your work. So if you can maybe say a couple of things about that. And
hello. We know each other for like 5 years almost.
Since 2006.
Yes.
And since 2006 we made different collaboration,
yes.
Not only in performance, in music, photo installation and video. And then that's only in 2009 that we decided to make a performance together, because we saw each other in different festivals, different places, and we know each other pretty well. and I like the stuff that Sarah is doing. So it was a good to maybe work together.
Yes, and it's like a challenge to mix our two work, like and our two language and the things we used to like to talk about. I mostly talk about woman's stuff and what a surprise. And Francis mostly tells in images some stuff about his personal life or his I can say that maybe.
It's like then yes.
Maybe you have to know him to see that.
For me, performance is like a painting. So I present different images, and it's like several of canvas that we present. So different kind of action who are related together, and as kind of a story, if you can say, and for me it's very important to get in our performance we consider it a lot of the public, so that's why we use strategies to keep the concentration of the spectator, kind of by example the surprise, and that's keep awake this kind of concentration.
Yes, we like to do some stuff. There is also in our work together. There is me doing something and Francis doing something at the same time. So like these two images that comes together, and then we do a little thing at the same time or together, and then just like all alone in our stuff, but together sometime. And these little surprises are quite important for us.
Yeah.
And yes, it's always really poetic, and we try to we think of action to do and to like it's mostly a choreography, but with some stuff that happened at the time, because there is always this moment, and it's a work about images, about things we want to say, about, and a lot about presence, be there and do the stuff. And
yes, so it's kind of a common performance with individual space and energy. So that's why we work a lot on the rhythm and the posture, so to keep always, dynamic, the kind of the two bodies in the space. And I think this is important, and we use a lot in the creation and not really in the destruction, in the poetic way, as you told. Yes.
give her the.
I can see you're a dynamic duo. It's an interesting kind of. I find that looking at the two of you performing and just in conversation is really interesting. So a lot of cross references between life relationships and then the performative relationships. I guess they feed off of each other. And last but not least, Martine Viale, who's coming from Quebec as well. And we had a short conversation before about her work and the ways in which the body and presence and time are working for you in your actions. So if you can kind of introduce us to some of that, and then we'll continue the conversation about it. I know it is a huge topic, but we have to start somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, like I said, Boyana, right? For me, the example I like to take is, after the rain, when you walk on the street and there's tiny leaves with one drop of water on it. That stuff for me is presence that we ignore. we don't see anymore. We don't pay attention. So I try to put that in perspective in my work. And so the body is very important, but my body is everybody. So it's not my identity, like me, my issues, whatever. It's not important. It's how to create new images using the body and the relationship to the space, to the time, and also to people coming in. So it's like a canvas. The body is like not a canvas, but
Surface.
no, not surface, like a mediator. Okay. So I approach the presence of the body like sometimes an object also, but with history. And so it's without my control, you know. I come with everything I have and everything I don't know I have that rise up during the performance.
Thank you. And when we were discussing the leaf on in the rain, yesterday night I was talking to someone who was saying it is so amazing to be at an event where you have performance art, because it's like stopping, excuse me, it's like stopping in time, in a sense, because everything else kind of has a different sort of a rhythm once you're out in the, outside of the space where this is happening. And, I was thinking about people, there was a lot of people going to bars and places outside of the X space where we had the last night's performances, and yet inside there was a sort of a different kind of embodiment of time and space and presence, which was really interesting. And you don't get to that stage unless you make a choice to stand and take time to take it in. And that's why I guess performance art is really interesting in this bridging between everyday life and art, because it I guess offers opportunities to stop and think about moments that are important. So I don't know, would you agree with that?
Well, I was thinking that I find funny that here we're listening that body is like a canvas or something, and I used to say that it was a canvas where you're gonna draw a story or something like that. But now I change a little bit my idea that body is a container, because now I'm working with these fish tanks, with these containers as a metaphor of something, no? So I like that performance definition can be very personal and very different each time, that you can say that is a canvas or is a container or is a place where something happened. And I like that thing that you're saying about time, that performance has its own time and you can manipulate it as you need. And I work also sometimes with somebody else in a performance. For example, there's this guy from Germany who went to Mexico because Clemente Padin, this artist from Uruguay, told him that I was living in Mexico, so he went to Mexico, he contacted me, and we decided to do a performance. We didn't know each other, and we just saw like 3 hours the night before the performance, and we went to a shop, and we buy this kind of shop like Dollarama or something like that, and we just buy a lot of things, and we didn't know what the other bought, and we were doing things with all those stuff, and even we didn't know each other, we could do a lot of things reacting to the other, no? So I like to see this piece like your piece, working together, doing different things, and even there happen some things that were not thought. You can keep on going with the stuff. No, is I think that kind of improvisation is very interesting because it's just like life. You are not thinking what's gonna happen when you are going out of the door. Maybe you have a place to go or somewhere to go, but in the road you will find a lot of different stuff that you will need to have in your life, no? And that's how I feel performance art sometimes. Like the last thing I say is just like I don't know the name in English. Lupa, you know lupa. This no.
Like the thing you're looking. You mean the thing
No,
you're
something
looking
that
through?
you look to see things bigger.
Oh, the mirror. Magnifying glass. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes performance is like that.
Yeah.
And you are watching all the things that you see with that. And you have, you think, well, sometimes I think that everything at the street is a performance. If you see like different actions, like just people passing in a bicycle or something, if you think it's an action itself. But is of course not the intention to pass by in front of the gallery with a bike, a performance, but it is a performance. So I like those things, like to be with my, how you say, loop?
Magnifying glass.
With my magnifying
Lupa is
glass.
really nice. I like lupa.
Well, when you go with your lupa,
Yes.
and you see these things and you discover a lot of actions where there are not performance art. You know what I mean? That's what I like.
I think that's really interesting because in my conversations with all of you, there was an issue of improvisation and the relationship between improvising and everyday life actions. But in those conversations, all of you had a different take on what improvisation meant for your work. So, you know, where yours was, I had to negotiate the fact that I couldn't get into the country, and that really, you know, impacted how I'm going to change the performance. You guys are collaborating with each other and kind of feeding off of each other and changing some of the stuff. And then, Martin, you said that improvisation for you meant a different kind of negotiation that's more meditative in a sense, or sort of. So if you can kind of maybe speak to that, I'd be interested because I find it important.
It's more like the creation of images are very important to me. But also, there's no fixed concept. You know, for example, the piece I did in this festival, I found myself in a problematic during it, because the piece was a sky, right, in the basement. And I was there doing each one, and then realized that, wait a minute, the sky is not organized like this. So I want to leave myself that room because otherwise I don't feel alive. You know, then I needed to react. Okay, this is true. The sky is not fixed. What do? I must adapt. I must create something new. And so in a way it's putting yourself at risk because you don't know if it's going to work or not. And that's not the important thing. Is that the important thing is that you learn something, you go further in your reflection of the work and of life in general also.
And so the two of you do a kind of negotiation with those accidents, but also what your bodies do with each other. So how does that happen? How does improvisation work when there's two people performing? Because, you know, once we're alone, right, it's easier to make those changes than when it's two people.
You want to know again? Yes, but yes. I used to. We made a performance together in New Brunswick, and I was working with instinct. I wanted to work with instinct and improvisation, so I was working with an animal. So I used to work with cat, mouse, and fish, but fish, well, you know. and and the cats. I like to work with kind of animal that is not like a dog, like okay sit, okay stay, and that this kind of little animals get a very strong presence and do what you want. So that's you have to deal with it and to do improvisation with actions. And in this action, Sarah was there with a big piano, who was in this room, and I said, "Okay, Sarah, during the performance, you will play piano."
But I don't play piano.
So the thing is to play with the instinct, to make a kind of ambience and to deal with the situation, what I'm doing. The cats don't want to go there. What happened? What I can do. So this is kind of a tricky thing because it's like okay, I will give another example. I used to work with kids also of 4 years old, and you have to deal with this kind of situation that you're the performer and the observer in the same time in your performance. So you're performing, so the gesture is faster as your brain, that what you want to do, and then you think after that what you made with your brain. I was doing that, and what is the next? So, and with the kids or the cats, the thing is that you're a kind of a camera who's checking you in your performance. You see you, and what's going on with this kid, what's going on with this cat, and you realize that okay, now what's the next step? What is doing now, and to go further with the piece. And with this kind of improvisation, that can bring you someone else, because when you work alone, you can get a blank or something like that, but you always decide what to do and what's going on. But with this kind of with animals or kids, there is always something that you don't control, and this is the kind of liberty is giving to you.
What about with Sarah?
With Sarah.
Our work together. I see in my work, and I will come to our work after the improvisation. I worked some stuff only improvised. Like I did this exercise that became a movie, a little film, like I would say. Like I had my map and my Mac and the little like a camera in the screen, and like during like a lot, like maybe 12 hours at different times, maybe like 10 minutes at a time, like on maybe 2 weeks, I just opened the camera and did something, like anything, like just not knowing anything about what I would do. So sometimes I was dancing, sometimes I was improvising poems, sometimes I was just there doing nothing, sometimes I was just putting my face on the wall, anything. And this was a really great exercise, and sometimes I didn't remember after that I did the stuff, like, oh my god, I did that. Like I was telling a story and then going up and sing a song and go to find lip-seal, like to like lip balm. Yeah, I had my lips dry, and then I just did that while like singing, and then I came back and I did my action, and then after I saw this and oh my god, I don't remember that I did that. It was really, and I found some action in that experimentation. It was really great, and like group work in some other occasion. But in my performance, like that I do in festival, the improvisation has a less place. It's more, the improvisation is more in the presence, in like some little thing that can happen or not. Maybe sometimes it will be as I thought it was going to be, but if nothing's come out, there won't be improvisation. But if, like in one performance, I was taking off my shoes, and then I realized that the brand of my shoes was fairy tales are true. So I saw this and I said, oh, I have to show this to everyone. So I show my shoes and I throw it, and this was complete improvisation. I didn't know I was going to do that, but I had to do it. But usually I don't really, it's in the presence and in the, like, oh, I'm here and this is for me is a kind of improvisation. And together we work more like that, I think, for the moment, because we work usually alone. We don't really work that much together, but in a lot of stuff, and we know really well each other, but it's mostly really, we know what we're going to do, and some things happen that, like yesterday, he broke my house and he was not supposed to do it. It was an accident.
I was wondering about that. Was he supposed to break your house? I thought it was just a comment on building the house.
But I liked that. I liked that he did it. I was like, you break my house.
In our work, this kind of thing that happen is often mistakes. It's kind of improvisation, and okay, I broke this, or she wanted to make something with the house. I know, but now she just a look, and you know like what's means when she was like that, and just look the house, look at me. Okay, I continue. So this is always kind of we work, and someone can become a parasite on each other, and this is kind
disturbing
of
a little bit the action.
This is exactly what I was asking you about, because you're working with two individuals, and I was wondering about this very fact, right? So she does something, and then you come in and you wreck it. Yeah. Not that you wanted to wreck it, but what happens, right? There's tension between the two of you when you're performing, because you cannot control the other person. And that's why I was, saying, you were talking about cats and dogs and all that. But, what happens with the other person, right? And this is really interesting to me, that this tension, I was thinking Marina Abramovich and Ulay, at one point, like, they had to, take their own paths, right? Because at one point, like, it's a very close, intimate relationship when you're performing.
Yes, sure.
And so I find that this is, there's a potential, but also danger in that, right?
But I think we have a lot of confiance, trust. Yes, I think we trust in each other. Like even if he forgot something or I forgot something, it will bring something else, and just I think it's based on trust, I think.
And I think that this word trust is also interesting, because Martin, you were saying how you had to change at one point your whole idea of your performance because the sky is not organized, right?
Yeah, you can't hesitate.
And then you had to make that decision that's based on trusting your own gut or your own instinct, which can be very, like you don't know what the outcome of this will be. And I find that that's what the beauty of performance is that you have to make these decisions and you don't know what the outcomes, how people react. So would you say that this is something that you're also appreciating, and that this is something that you feed off of?
Yeah, totally. Like the part of the instinct is very important, but it's a very fine line between going too much, going not enough, being too much inside, being too much outside. It's how to compose. It's the work of composition. That's the way I see it. Yeah.
And also this idea of intuition. And I know this is kind of, some people would consider it problematic. But I'm interested in it because I'm interested also in the relationship between the political and the aesthetic and the performative. And it seems to me that often, if you look at the history of performance art or history of art, especially in the 20th century, there was a lot of talk about feminist actions and intuition. But when you really think about it, intuition is something that all artists are using. And I think that where it becomes really obvious is in performance art, because there's these minute by minute decisions that you have to do, and they're dependent on you trusting yourself in that moment. That gives richness to the work. So I don't know if you would see.
Well, I think that if you put the process in front, I think that even accident or like, I don't know, there's no mistakes.
Yeah.
There's only a process, and you need to assume it to the end. You know, otherwise it's showing yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not what performance is about. You know, I don't know yet what it's all about, because otherwise I wouldn't do it, right? But, and I think that's mostly why I chose durational work, because the fine line between life and art, the work in the studio and the work in indoor or outdoor is very, there's no answer. You need to create the answer while you're going. So yeah.
Did you say performance is not about showing yourself?
Not for me.
That's interesting, because in earlier discussions,
yeah, no, I know.
suggested that was exactly what it was about.
Yeah.
So
Well, I questioned this.
Yeah.
I'm right there right now in my process. Like, why do I do this? And do I really want to show? Like, showing involves like, okay, this is who I am. So you don't invite the person to have a discussion with you. You're always talking. And so for me, it's important, like, to the people who come to see are as important as me performing. I have nothing to show them. Like, I cannot say, oh, this is the way to do. Like, you have your own way, I have my own way. So I'm just proposing something that is quite open. So, but the idea of showing is it's a question.
But that doesn't mean, for example, that you're going to talk to people during the piece, or
No, and also.
even if they ask you a question or something.
And also when you do a durational, you're with your mind. The mind doesn't stop thinking, and the ego doesn't disappear. And so when you're alone in the room, it brings a lot of emotion too. Well, that was a bit extreme.
But it's very, like Paul, I'm really interested in this differentiation between showing and performativity.
Well, yeah.
And I think that it's also the difference between life, or no difference between life and performance. Because you were saying that everything then is a performance, right? That everything can be seen as a performance.
The lupa.
Yeah. The lupa, yes.
But
The intention is the difference.
well, yesterday she was asking me like if my performance was always political, no, because of the visa team.
Not because of that.
Well, but
That's not the reason why I asked you.
well, but let me say what I want to say, and maybe
Sorry.
I can make sense without saying that. Okay. Please. The thing is, when she asked me what she asked me yesterday, I answered no. I don't work with political performance, but the thing is, I realize that when you perform, you do political immediately, because you are saying something and you are putting your body somewhere that you are going to be seen. So I think it's naive to think that you're not being political somehow. Yesterday, my performance was more political than often because
More overtly, like openly political.
okay,
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
because the visa stuff is very political.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
if I use the other word I was gonna use, which was art, I think it's another kind of political stuff. But the thing is, as soon as I do that with that word, it became very political and very like, I don't know. I think I have to include that word because that was I was living, and it's all the things that you are saying that you have to improvisar, sometimes what's happening around you. And for example, when I used to do my picnics, one day I was busted. Police came and they took me to the police office, and I realized that it was very political because I was eating by myself in a place where everybody was running to take the plane or something like that, and in a country where people, well, you know, I don't know if it's third or fourth or fifth world, but anyway, people with all these things about food and money and work and all those stuff, and I was like playing actually like a kid with you know, like girls play when they are young, having the tea,
Tea party.
the tea party. I feel like that, no, that I am doing my tea party, and of course it was political, and I didn't realize because my head is not in that place. So the thing is, all these things I'm saying is just to say that the intention is very important in performance. No, it's like what you want to say, what you want to do, and how you do it is the way that it's gonna be watched or understood by everybody. Even everybody is thinking something else, like subjectivity. This word, subjetividad.
Yes.
And I don't know. It's like, of course, like I like it. Did you like it? You like it? It's like everybody likes something or not, but because each one of us are with different education or interests, and so it's very, very, when I try to explain performance, it's very hard to do it. But if you don't think and you just watch, it's very interesting how it just come into you and you feel it. That's what I wanted to say.
And yeah, I was, because yesterday night when we talked about the political, you said that, you know, for you it's political because the aesthetic choice or the aesthetic engagement is political. Any aesthetic engagement, because at one point, and Martin, I think that this is what you were also, in a sense, and I would agree with you, is that at one point where you may choose to make a certain step to engage with whoever is there, to enter a dialogue with people who come to see the performance. In a way, they're no longer viewers, they're participants. And that moment in which these subjectivities meld, and then there's no more subject and the object. And this is, you know, thinking about the porous membranes of the body and of who we are, and, you know, metaphorically representing both the inside and the outside. And I think in that breaking apart between the subject and the object and entering these kinds of relationships with whoever is there is political. And then every act, aesthetic act in a sense, becomes political. It doesn't have to be, you know,
Well, I would say
overtly, it doesn't have to hit you over the head to be that.
Yeah, everything is everything. It's not only political, it involves a lot of things that sometimes with talking about it, we may, you know, language is difficult because it put something, it's an ending, right? But there's so much things going on, and I don't know, I'm careful about using like one category, you know, because to me there's some flu zone. It's not that okay, this is political, this is universal, it's all so complex, and that's the beauty of it, is that we can't understand everything. No, it's just and I had that experience. it's not really the same thing, but I was saying this morning at the breakfast table that when you are there by yourself, involved in a duration, people think that you're deaf. I hear so much things. And sometimes they talk about me, and I'm there, and I hear everything, and I carry that, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. Human beings are very interesting, like the way they interact with you, and there is something there they need to touch, and it's so to reduce it to one thing, like my question after your talk, Rodi, yesterday was, and I still have that today. What is political art? Like what should we? How to do this? It's complex. I don't think we can. It's just like we're opening some little doors.
But that's the point. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't have to be,
it doesn't have
with
to
a great
be anything.
P. It doesn't have to be anything. But just the engagement with the other, whoever that is.
For me, the most
creation
important
of
thing is to be true to myself and to be good. Okay, at the end of the day, I ask myself, okay, in that performance, did I learn something? Did I learn something new? And do I find that I went into the essential? If not, then next time, But I carry this. It's not good or bad. But it's a question. I think if performance can raise some questions, and not only in one element, well, for me the job is done, And that's what I mean by not showing yourself. Like this is not interesting to me to say, oh, I'm like this and like this. No, but how can we meet? On which level, and what do we say, and how do we say it?
And that's just before we started this, I was saying, aren't we all exhibitionists? And then that's the point, right? Is that you're not showing yourself. You're entering a relationship where you're asking yourself some questions and also asking the other some questions. And it's not about any sort of showing of oneself. Although it is a part.
To make a performance without showing yourself.
Sorry?
I don't think it's possible to make a performance without showing yourself.
No, yes.
I think we do more into this. I'm not exhibitionist.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Of course, you show yourself.
Yeah.
No, but.
Of course, I think so.
Yeah, maybe that's the word showing. Yeah. But. Le mot c'est démontrer, like I'm not. Yeah, exactly. To exhibit, like. For me, I understand that some people need to do that, and I respect that. But for me, it doesn't. Even when I watch this, I don't learn anything. This is not, it doesn't bring me somewhere. But that's personal, right?
Next time you do a performance, you have to be naked. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I was.
Partly.
I'm naked the first night.
No, I want to say something about this. I think it's like when I do this fish tank, sometimes, well, of course, I'm showing myself as everybody doing a performance. And the thing is very important for me that there are things that I'm not speaking about in the performance. For example, yesterday I was thinking the things I hate, for example, and nobody knows, no? Like all the problems I had with my boss, and all the things that happened that make me angry in Mexico or wherever, and for example, the problems at my house, the rent, whatever. And then when I do that, when I crash or smash or whatever with the bat, I feel like happy, like I put the name of my boss in the fish tank. Well, of course I didn't, but in my head, and I do what I want to do, but I am not going to do ever, So of course you show a part, I think, of yourself, but there is a lot of things that you don't need to show because it's not important. And what I was saying is that everybody will put something of themselves in the piece that you are doing. Sometimes it will be connecting, and sometimes it's going to be not connecting. But still, performance art, I think, is that like a big thing like where you put a lot of electric stuff to take energy. You know what I mean? And you can plug as much as you want. No? Well, it's hard to translate for me. But doing metaphors.
Well, I think there was a particular, like if we look at Pancho's performance and the other performances, you were really feeding off the audience in a way of, you've really, to me it's almost like clown in the sense of part of the idea of clown is take the audience into your world. So you're really playing off of them. It's like your gestures speak to them. You look at them, you see what they're saying, you reflect back something. You're really playing with them very directly, whereas the other performances were more like, I'm doing my world, and you can watch, but not like, and I'm going to bring you right into it. It's more...
Yeah, you're always bringing them, though. You're always bringing them, like they're entering the space, they're there with you. You know, you're not maybe throwing them on their faces, but you're bringing them into your world also.
But I would say there's a difference in terms of stylistically, both with Francis and Sarah's performance and with your performance. Of course, it's completely up to the audience how much they enter your world. Whereas with Pancho, he's
taking
going
them.
out of their way
Yeah.
to, to attract them.
There were forms of address. I mean, if we just look at yesterday's performances as an example, I think we had 5, 6 distinct forms of address. Ways of hailing or inviting the audience from Henry to Michael. You know, both sitting behind a microphone or standing behind a microphone and speaking, but the nature of the address or the appeal was, almost polar opposite in a sense. Say my reading was very similar to your routine, I mean. So this kind of invitation, that helped or direct appeal.
But I want to say something. Like, for example, the other performances I have done with the fish tanks, it was yesterday very funny because all the things happened. I didn't expect that all these things were going to happen. For example, when I did the other performances with tequila or with milk, with the different liquids, I didn't go into the audience. Like, well, when I was in China with the milk, I had cookies, animal shape, and I was going to the audience to offer them a cookie. But the other times, it was no music. It was very like ritualistic way to do it, very silence and everybody in silence and nobody speak and nobody nothing. So it was very different. But yesterday, that Carlos Monroy told me that I should play this music, and I said, well, I don't have the music I want, so I prefer to be in silence. And then he said, well, listen this, and then I said, okay, that's what I need. So I played that music, and it was very funny. And then also it's the first time that the things of the bottle go to the audience, because it's the first time I work with champagne. It was so expensive, So it was very, very funny that they go to the audience, and I was very scared that I hit somebody or something. And thank God she was the one who received that on the head. And
that was you. It's like, ouch.
That's ouch. And all these things make that the performance became funny. But I wasn't thinking that it was going to be funny,
And I was asking about humor in your work last night.
Yeah, and I like humor, but I was not expecting humor yesterday. And as soon as I noticed that there was all this humor around, I used that. Those are the things that you learn with performance, that suddenly you have to take things passing like this. So I did that yesterday. Like I aproveché.
Yeah, you improvised.
No, aproveché.
No, okay.
Aprovechar. You know aprovechar?
Oh, appropriate, proper.
No. Aprovechar is something like, it's a verb that means something that you have something and you are taking the best part of the stuff. What's the word?
Exploit. Extrapolate.
I don't know. No, well, I don't know why I find the difficult word.
It's
Like
profit. To profit. Profit. Harvest. Profit.
Whatever, we understand.
well,
Okay, we understood the
is,
point.
I use the thing that I was not expecting that it was gonna happen to make it better. You know what I mean? So it was very good for me that all those things happened because I use humor and I use a lot of things that I wasn't expecting, and they helped me to feel myself more comfortable, and I don't know. I think it worked better that if I just were like very, like like very serious. So if you have lemons,
make a lemonade.
yes.
If life throws you lemons, make a lemonade. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. But how do you then, like, how's, Martini was saying that, you listen to people. And in many ways, I've done
I don't listen.
no, I mean, but you hear them, right? You, hear what they're saying. And
Tell us the gossip.
No way.
I had a similar experience when I was at doing a performance for Nuit Blanche, and I was lying on bed, in a hallway, and people were supposed to kind of go over me, but I didn't in any way wanted to, engage with them, and it was just this surreal experience where people were like, and I was hearing them saying things to me, "Is she dead?" They were making comments about the body of my body. I had two women lie on each side of me, and they were taking pictures, like clowning around. And like Francis. Okay. Yeah. And so it was really surreal to have that experience where you hear what people are saying, and they're acting as if you're an object, right? As if you don't hear them. And that really fed back into the performance, right? It's like really fed by, and I kept thinking about it while I was performing. So in a way, it's not as overtly dealing with the audience like you did, but then that energy that you can't help but hear feeds back into what you do. I don't know if that's the experience that you would.
You're like a witness, right?
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
witnessing something.
Mm-hmm.
And also sometimes very personal, intimate stuff, right? Which is, I thought maybe I should write it down, some idea. But then I was, in the process of the work. So, but it would be something to do. Because it makes you feel really weird to feel like an object.
Mm-hmm. But it's also, in a way, the gaze, right, is turned around where they don't realize that you're processing all of this. And then there's like an internal dialogue that happens, and in a way you become the observer, right? And that's kind of very interesting, that power relationship, right? Where is it? And I mean, question of power as well in performance art, like how much of it do you give away? How much do you take in? And then where is that line? So, anyone? Because we often deal with power,
Yeah, it's a tricky question. Well, it's something, it can be very scary to talk about power, right? Because we don't want to talk about it. I don't know, I need to think. But I think it's switching around.
I was just thinking in terms of, because we're so focused on creating images, that in a way we objectify ourselves. Because when people look at images, they're looking at, generally in our culture, they're looking at a TV screen or a painting or whatever, it's an object they're looking at. So I don't know, I just feel like because we're focused on creating, for people, artists, generally are focused on creating images, that they are in fact the objectifying themselves. But it is neat how you're saying that, how we become the observer. So we're actually, as the artist, the artist's action is actually observing the witness of the objectification.
I'm formulating such a thought to speak to you. This idea, it's coming so naturally in this conversation, the idea of the power as a performer, whether it's like you yourself being good as an exhibitionist, if you're demonstrating something, you're putting something out. If you're not saying, this is who I am, you have a haircut, you make choices of where that cut, how it falls and how it looks, whatever you choose to wear when you're performing, however you choose to carry your body, but even also how you set up the parameters. So as you were describing your piece, it became, and you're responding by saying that you didn't intend to shoot people with corks or hit them in the head. In fact, you laid out a piece of tape and you had a space. Some people were shot at with glass, and they were objectified in that moment. I felt actually in all of the pieces objectified in that I was connecting. I was asked to inhale chemicals, a green
Comet.
Comet, yes, familiar smell, all familiar, as well as to potentially be hit in the head by a cork, or these moments where you created interaction on a different level, but I think quite comparative. You brought us into a space that had elements all through it. I mean, I relate to your piece because I myself performed it in that cell, that space, and it's a very charged space. But I would liken this to, for anyone who saw the performance between Sylvie and Claudia yesterday, where there may not be something overtly happening where they're looking at you. Sometimes I caught your eye a few times suddenly, but I felt such a resonance of energy. In fact, in all of your pieces, where I was like, I am here. I'm a part of your piece. You need my energy in a way, as much as I need yours. So that's an interesting thing. I kept thinking about the fourth wall. I don't know other language to use to describe it, it's a theatrical term, but that space between us, that space that goes across that line where my energy is affecting yours and yours is affecting mine, and how you definitely interpret it differently to each of you. That power that you have and our power to use.
And this is the difference, I think, that when we talked about the showing, I think that showing involves some sort of, in the sense that you were trying to describe it, in a sense it involves this didactic relationship. Is like, okay, here I am, and this I'm going to demonstrate, and now you're going to witness my demonstration, and there's a certain amount of power in that you're demonstrating. Whereas performance art is the exact opposite. Right? It's not didactic. I don't think that it should be didactic in the sense that it's teaching anyone anything. It's teaching, and in first place, I think it's teaching yourself something in a way, right, through the act of performing. But I don't know if that you would agree with that. I don't. You're not trying to teach anyone anything.
Well, no.
Are you?
No, I agree. I agree that the one who learn more is yourself when you do a performance, because you have, even you're sharing experiences with the people who is there. You are learning a lot of things about yourself and about the things happening that you didn't expect or you expected but they change or something. No, I think that's the thing I like about performance, that you don't need a certain space to do it, or I mean you can do whatever you want. Or in this time of festivals, of course you have a place to do it, but you can do whatever you want. Like you can make the place go with you, and it's very, very interesting for me.
I would say that I'm not trying to really learn something, even if it happens anyway, or to teach something to the audience or something like that. But I want to. For me, it's really important. It's really important that the audience and I and us can feel something. It's about feeling. I think it's about you're there with me, even if you're sit down and I'm up. Like we are all alone, all together in that moment and that action. And for me, it's really.
And that's what kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier, is that performance art has the ability to kind of take us out of time and into its own time and create relationships within that. I would use, Deleuzian term, zones of intensity, right? Like these zones where we interact with the power, as you were saying, or with affectation. Yeah, and affect is a big part of how we interact between whoever's performing and the audience, right? This kind of subconscious or unconscious relationships that are built through being present, or when you're doing a performance in a room where there's 60, 70 people around you, you cannot but feel their energy in one way or another just by sitting in the room, right? So just to start off with that, and then, whatever happens, right, how they're looking at you, what are you hearing is also part of that. And that's where I find that performance art really negotiates a different kind of experience in space. Sorry.
What you're saying, I feel when you go to a place where you are like a festival or a gallery or a museum, when you are saying that there's going to be a performance, people come very open to see performance. Mm-hmm. But when you find something at the street that you are walking or in the metro or something, it's very different, the energy, because people is not open to performance, because people is walking to their work or whatever. So it's I find very powerful that performance make people stop and watch sometimes, well, if they have time. But for example, in Mexico City, we were working a lot with performance at subway stations, and it's very interesting because sometimes people in a rush pass just like fuck, and very angry. But sometimes people stop, and one day in this subway station in Mexico that is called Pino Suarez, is a big connection station, and they have these, I don't know in English, vitrinas.
Retrains, yeah.
Like this, yeah?
Retrains.
So they have 14 vitrinas in the subway. It's like 5 meters each, so it's very good exhibition area because it's a lot of people. So we invited 14 artists, one by vitrina, and then it was packed with the people of the subway. People couldn't walk, and it was like, because everybody was watching a different performance, and it was like a big museum suddenly of performance. And I think performance is so powerful, and I think maybe I'm going to be in problems when I say that, because I think there are 3 kinds of performances for me. When I try to explain it at my class what kind of performance is like, I think is performance as art, performance as show, and performance as ritual. All connected. But the thing is, what I like more of performance as ritual is that people in the place stop being audience and they become witness. And I think it's very, very interesting because I'm not thinking about to show something or to teach something, as you were saying. I'm trying to share something, and it's the best part of performance, that you can share and you can make people involved with you or with your idea. And I think performance is very powerful. That's the thing.
Well, we come back to the leaf after the rain, right?
No, I'm not a leaf.
You're not a leaf?
No.
You're the rain.
No, I'm a flower.
You're a flower,
Just
I'm just a girl in the world.
okay, the leaf, please.
No, nothing. No, so you were coming back to it.
Yeah, I was coming back to this idea of the leaf and then to stop, right? And it's so interesting how we go through every day, or when you look at people going through the everyday actions of their lives. But the performance artist uses those actions to actually make them more meaningful, in a sense, and to kind of connect or reconnect with the everyday life through a different sort of employment of elements of that. And to make that, almost meditative moment, or to recreate that meditative moment where you can stop and think about what you are in the world. And, think about the leaf covered with the rain. So that was when you said that earlier today, I was really struck by that, because that's exactly what I was thinking about performativity and performance art. So I don't know if
Questions?
yeah, questions.
I'm thinking about the three categories and thinking about a couple of things that have been touched on, which I feel you're speaking to right now, which is like art life, for life is art, whatever that. So what about as a category? I propose art life for performance, or life of art for performance, or an artful life.
Artful life.
That can sometimes become performative or like a performance, but because I was hearing something, and again, like earlier and again now, when you were first speaking about your piece, or the way you think about your work, or your process, if you're in the studio and then you're in a piece, how there is a lot of fluidity.
Well,
there.
I'm never out of life,
kitchen,
right?
Like
Yeah, I
know.
know.
It's your kitchen, or
Yeah.
you walk to wherever you're going.
And you never leave life. You're always,
Yeah.
so this is very strange, like that category, art and life, because art is in life, always.
Yeah.
So it's a bit.
I was actually thinking about like how it's broken up, right, and how
Broken.
this artificial differentiation between art and life. That we make that distinction, right? That's broken up by performance art.
That art happens in a place and time.
That's right. So it makes it meaningful.
When you say life, do you mean social reality?
I would say both social reality, but also something emotional and other reality.
So what is life?
Good question. What
That's
is
a
art?
good question. I mean, what is good question? But unfortunately, life today is overcome by some sort of existence in zombie-like exist. I mean, this is my political bias, right? That we're so in a hurry many times, and we're so taken up by the different kinds of social processes that we're many times we're not aware of the other side, like creativity, to use the word love or whatever, like to enjoy those those things. And Herbert Marcuse talked about this, about the kind of de-sublimation, right, and how we're not allowed to be creative. And we as artists are actually enjoying the luxury of thinking about these things. I consider it a luxury because it's so taken out of what I would say life today. So I don't know if that's where you...
I just think the conversation raises a lot of really interesting questions around terminology and language and cliche. I think we use an awful lot of cliches in trying to describe what it is that we're doing. And I wonder why we have to resort to cliches. Is because we don't have a sufficient language or something specific enough in the terminology. Can we agree a set of terms? And of course, I appreciate that everyone speaks different languages and so on, and different needs of different types of communication. So I'm just wondering about all those notions that are being discussed. And you just raised on this notion of art and life, and sort of like, well, what's that spatial relationship? That's what it sounds like. It sounds like art's over here and life's over there.
No, that's what I said.
Well, that's
there
what
is
she was-
no.
there's no-
So
There's-
that art life
yeah.
conception doesn't
It doesn't work,
doesn't work, does it? I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Because we try not to think about things in spatial metaphors. So it's like, well, art in life, art next to life, art above life, art through life. I don't know.
Next to us, how about
I mean, so, and but we set ourselves to use terminologies which mean that we make questions that we can't answer. Like, what is life? We can't really answer that. What is art? We can't really answer that. We can have a go at speculating on it, but there's a sense that we're trying to find a solution, I guess. So I was just interested about, thinking about art as a form of social reality, with, in relationship to these other social realities, the commercial social reality of recreation of the street. And I'm just also thinking about, are we people? There's been a lot of reference to people who do this, people who don't do that, people who notice these things, people who notice those things. people who can come to performances. So do we not share the same social reality as other people? Sure we do.
Well,
Don't we?
Of course we do.
well, we do, but in a way we don't.
Well, if you said there's no difference between art and life, we do. We share the same thing, right? There's no difference. Yeah.
But again, we're coming.
Is there a possibility to escape? Is there a possibility to evacuate social reality?
No, there's no, but
Something for artists to want to do.
but it's also the issue of having the luxury, again, having the luxury to create art, to be called an artist. That's a luxury, because there's people who work, 20 hours a day in a factory somewhere, who can't afford that luxury, and who are not thinking about, the differentiation between art and life. They don't have that luxury. There are. I'm not saying, I'm working. I'm not saying that I'm evacuated from social reality, but the fact that, I'm not also negating that we shouldn't be thinking, but I think that there should be realization that in certain instances, that differentiation between an art and life is quite present. Maybe not in our lives.
I think we're making it more present by the way we're talking about it, potentially.
This is really interesting, this conversation, because a couple weeks ago I was at a conference of art historians, and there was someone who was presenting about, situated art practices, and they kept saying about this notion of, how artists are trying to squat and change urban, elements of urban life, and how it's all kind of incorporated back into the corporate machinery, right? And then I asked the question, okay, but what about the thinking that everybody is an artist? What, many have so far said, or, thinking about Joseph Beuys or situationists, right? So why should we have the luxury of being called an artist? Why can't everybody be an artist and completely destroy this professionalization, institutionalization of art, and destroy the art? I would agree completely, this artificial barrier between art and life.
But it's my experience that there's never been any luxury or glory in being called an artist. Quite the reverse.
No, but the way that I'm thinking, no, but see, you're thinking about luxury in terms of monetary value. I'm thinking about luxury,
More like social standing, perhaps.
or social standing. I'm not thinking about luxury in that sense. I'm thinking of luxury about emotional, intellectual, and creative life, right? It's the luxury to reflect upon these things. Well,
all humans have this desire, or will ultimately be fulfilled by this reflection that we partake in as artists. Like, who are we to say that that's what people should have the luxury of doing?
Well, not.
Others have the luxury of entering the priesthood or becoming, left-wing sports heroes.
Yeah, well, exactly. Especially the time when performance art created such megastars like Marina Abramovic or Lady Gaga. And basically, performance art got absorbed in every aspect of life, and performance art absorbed everything also. So it is useless to try to make all this, try to find all these differences. It's all exhibitionist showing, it's all political, it's all narcissistic, it's all teaching and learning and everything. So it's you can't just segregate things or try to create a definition that will satisfy. It won't satisfy you at all.
I like Lady Gaga.
I like her.
Well, I want to say something that performance is like going to the market. Like you can choose whatever you want to buy or see. I mean, no? And I understand what you want to say, because I feel a lot like you're saying, like it's a luxury, because I work in Mexico in a museum, and the title I have in my card of the museum is boss of the Department of Performance an actual art. So it's, of course, it's so good that I do whatever I want and I can invite people to my country to do performance and they pay me for that. Of course, it's a luxury. But of course, it's very difficult to speak about this because, of course, workers are not thinking about art and stuff. But I agree that it's a luxury stuff, especially when you work with champagne and all those things. But I think it's a big problem with performance that everybody wants to put etiquetas. It's a big problem because, well, in art, not only in performance, like, for example, where should I put this thing called performance? Visual art or performing arts or, I don't know, it's a big discussion every day with that. So if we are speaking about performance, well, art and life, like kitchen or bathroom, like where you want to go, is like very difficult. And if we start to speak about etiquetas, we will have problems because it's very difficult to put the things in a cajon, like in your
in a vacuum.
No. Cajon is this place where you put your socks or closet, but not the closet. The thing.
Your hamper.
In Spanish it's called cómoda, but it's very funny. Cómoda.
Cómoda, yeah, it's a commode.
Commode. So it's very. I think we should not stop thinking like if it's luxury or not luxury. I think it's very good that we have performance in life because.
But I think I was really misunderstood when I wanted to use the word.
But no,
because I don't have another
agree.
word for luxury. I mean, luxury is like immediately it brings up these ideas of commodity, which I want to avoid. I don't think I'm thinking that intellectual work or emotional work or leisure time or just not doing anything, right, sitting around and lazing around, right, is a luxury. And all of these possibilities that carry with a desire, enjoyment, wish fulfillment, play, imagination, all of these things are luxurious in a sense that we're deprived of them. If we weren't deprived of them, or if they weren't taken away through institutionalization and structuring of life, then they wouldn't be luxury, right? They would be part of the everyday.
But sitting around in a chair is not really luxury, or even not really luxury is a bank and just sitting in the street or,
Sometimes Sometimes I actually think that I would love to be in jail because then I would have the luxury of thinking. So it's how you use your time, I guess.
But I mean, saying that being an artist is a luxury, well, for me, I'm an artist so that I won't be a murderer. Like,
oh my God, what a differentiation.
I know it sounds like a joke, but really, if I had not become an artist, I would have become a killer. Yeah. And this saved me.
This is a side of the poem we haven't seen before.
That's sure.
So for me, it's not about luxury.
It was necessity.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's in a sense these things are necessary. They're a necessity of life, but they're turned into luxury because we're deprived of them. Sorry.
Well, I just want to mention though that I think it's also really beautiful in a way that we can't communicate about this as this labeling problem and this terminology problem, and that we maybe don't have a common language as artists, because that is why we make the art we do. Because what we do is ineffable, and this level of communication that I've experienced watching each of your pieces, like, I feel I know a part of you, or you know a part of me, and you don't even know my name, we've never met, I don't know you. And that's what's important. And so, in a way, I love that we can't communicate about this. I think that's wonderful.
And that's why we are doing this. If we could say everything we are doing and everything we are taking and put like etiquette on everything, why would we do art?
I feel the need to say something about assumptions because I mean it fits so easily, and that is our privilege in this world and in any part of the world where you have the privilege to sit around and talk about intellectual, artful, whatever other language you use to label what it is that we're doing right here in this time. We do have a lot of privilege. I feel the need to imbue privilege above luxury just because if we look at it that way, we don't have to see it as like this is a bourgeoisie, this is something that we benefit above other people. But that we make choices, difficult choices. I've made very little money as a performance artist, and yet I'm committed to it because of something that resonates powerfully with me. And obviously, anyone here has some relationship to that. You know that it is a privilege in terms of developing ways that we see or we experience the world. And rather than showing, perhaps creating experiences where each of us, if we're choosing to create a platform, we want to show something with it in the context of a piece. So we're wanting to create an experience where this visual, this object, or this action, this gesture, this sound, this movement is resonating in some way for us. We believe it resonates for us, and we feel that resonation with the audience or whoever, or no audience. I keep thinking like performance of all places. In my experience of looking at contemporary situation, contemporary art, we see performance artists or people who don't even use those labels that look like what is an ordinary person? Assumption. What is an artist? Assumption. What do we think that person looks like? But that performance artists, I'm going to use that label just because it's the language we're using, are doing things that happen for some time, direct documentation, screening evidence, or performance for video, or things where it's a photograph and a text that says, I did this, I winked at the moon. You know what I mean? That's something everybody can do anytime, right? Look at the stars and have a moment, an experience, you know? There's a transgression that's been happening within the sort of I don't know, the various worlds and realms that fall into performance art or experimental theater or whatever, where we are changing the language of art and life because that's how we speak. We use all kinds of things other than just words that get us caught out, you know, assumptions. It's a privilege to be here.
No, yes, I would totally agree. And the word is privilege. Yeah.
Yet somewhere in that narration you just gave, there is a leap. Like you said, to see a photograph and says the performance on the moon is one that is very, it bounds over limitation of space and time. And I think if one has a mind to determine that as their work, is also a quality that one is actually perceiving. I mean, it's beyond titles in some way.
I think that most people, even people who work, say, nowadays, they find moments in their lives, whether it's walking through a cemetery or past a schoolyard, where they have moments of, if we call it reflection, a moment where they feel something powerful, even if they are subjugated, is that a better term, where their subjectivity is forced to have to play out motions through a system, a complex system of powers. There's always a moment, even before you go to sleep or just when you wake up, where you have that experience, right? Whether it's like looking at the moon, but you feel something, and you may or may not call yourself an artist. Like children call themselves artists, and they are. They call themselves that. I did when I was 12, and I believed I was. You know, or you may not call yourself an artist, but you experience things in life that are reverential or whatever. It doesn't necessarily get put on a platform. I appreciated when I was taught by an artist that performance didn't have to be something that was set up within certain confines. This artist, a Canadian, Diana, right, who really opened my mind to the idea of what could be an experience that could fall into the category of performance by photographing a moment where she was winking at the moon. And it just changed things for me, like it really did.
Well, then the focus is on the work. You know, and I think that's what you seem to be skirting around. I mean, the work is what it is about. It's not about the titles. And I think the more we focus on the work, the more we are able to get somewhere. And that's what fuels us somehow, being alive. And I think it's life fulfilling in some level, life supportive. We're looking to get somewhere where something's happening, it's being transported. I mean, I'm not looking at it even as an escape. I'm looking at it as a misreality. And I think artists are generally making us aware of that, our acts. To me, that's where my interest is. And comes back to the work. I don't care what the hell we call it. Disciplines are not interesting to me. Maybe we have problems when we stick to those things, then we don't see the crossings, we don't see the fertilization of the work. That's limiting.
And it's complex because as you said, as we stick to them, I would say nothing is wrong with definitions. I mean, this is how we make sense of the world, this is how we model the world, and we try to constantly define. And I think it's a basic and enormous important, human necessity. I think it's fine to define. I think it's sad when we stick to certain definitions without being able to perceive the tension and the dynamic in every term we use. When we stop questioning, especially when we have a discussion, we keep using this. I already said cliches. Yes, they're cliches. At the same time, they're pregnant with a certain amount of truth. So I wouldn't say let's stop defining because it's a bad thing, because we integrate the complexity. No, I would say defining is important. We all do it all the time. It's alright to say I can live without defining, but it's enormously. It's a form of. It's a way to impoverish when you stick to your definitions and you truly believe they signify the absolute truth, as we sometimes tend to do, which is scary.
But I think this in a way goes back to Roddy's discussion yesterday about mondialisation, in the sense of if we can construct our world in some way, if that's an active process, change the definitions, you change the world in some way. If you can create a kind of consensus around a changed definition, everything is changed.
I suppose at the same time, though, there's Wittgenstein's view that the limit of my language is the limit of my world.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and there's an ongoing production of worlds, not just one world, and it's where these worlds kind of participate, one within the other. A term that axis, a term that Michael Bakhtin, the participation of one world in another. And I think that's where it gets interesting, when these worlds overlap. They could be mental, social, physical, sexual, political, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And then we have trouble because they've overlapped and we don't really know which language to use for one world or the other world to try and work out what the overlap, the kind of hybrid is. And that's probably what we're trying to grasp at. But it's certainly nothing to do with essence. No. I don't think. No. It's not to, you can take one approach which is to say we can reduce these worlds, we can try and deduct what they are in their essence, and it's just kind of like a sort of enlightenment kind of idea. And then we can, understanding the two essences, we can then work out what it's all that rises must converge. It's kind of, but we need to develop these language. I think language is very important. I think it does.
Sure. But what is language?
What is language?
What is language? I mean, are we limiting language?
Well, language doesn't just mean talking, obviously. It doesn't
obviously.
I was very interested in how Pancho and Athena used text in their pieces.
The what? Sorry? Text.
Because there were so many material decisions in both of your works that were really quite interesting. As you said, kind of about sensory engagement and sense perception in different ways. But yet there was a need to introduce text, as if this text would kind of override the sensory engagement, the sense perception in terms of aesthetic experience and the performance. But in both of your works, the text didn't really have a material property in the same way that the other objects you did do. So these are printed out on white paper from the computers. It's just a word that I want to hang in space somehow. It was interesting when you cut it, and then it sort of took on something more material and actually stuck it to your body, made it kind of more real. But then when you took it off and put it in the champagne, it kind of worked. I kind of thought, I don't know if you want this text to be three-dimensional. It's sculptural, so maybe it would flow, or I don't know what, but it's not the right material. it's not the right manifestation of the text. And similarly, Martine, you used the sort of handwriting around the place, which when you're looking at everything sort of visually and sensorially, then you get these kind of these texts which seem to want to override and say, I hope you understand what this is about. I don't know if you think that's a fair comment, but that's the question of what is language and how we think about text.
Well, of course, like the piece is not finished, right? It's never finished. So I take this comment as, yeah, it's a reflection. Like sometimes we do things that maybe I needed to have something to reassure myself that, okay, I didn't think about it. I'm just saying it could happen. You know, I'm not perfect. And no, but in a sense that it's good, because then maybe next piece I won't need it, or maybe I still will put it because for somehow I do it also for myself, right?
I think it's kind of like we're putting a difference between the thing and the description of the thing.
Yeah. To me, it wasn't a description. It was like, because often I work with collages of images, so it might not have a direct way, a direct link to the other work, you know?
You may not have seen Martine's work yesterday when she actually had those words on her body.
The first night, yeah.
Where they actually had.
And also I did little actions before doing the sky that nobody saw because I was alone in the space.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm asking a question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate that. Yeah.
How we use the manifestation of text. It wasn't a criticism.
Yeah.
It wasn't an attack. It wasn't anything like that. It's just, yes, it can be on paper. Yes, it can be written on the skin.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be projected in neon. Yes, it can be. I'm just interested in the choices, because there's so many very specific choices in both of your works about how to handle the liquid in most of the work, interestingly, how to deal with form, how all these very, very careful decisions, and then text kind of appears in a rather sort of roughly arbitrary form.
But what work, with respect to Martinez's work, what
sounds like a criticism.
Yeah, I know. It's not a critique.
I'm just discussing your critique. I'm not attacking you. I am expanding the discussion of the materiality of text, and really, I think you're raising an interesting issue. I don't know why you always think I'm attacking you.
He's not the only one.
Okay, so I'm a corny character. Deal with me. I'm short. I'm only 5'2", so I'm not desperate. I'm really interested in this perception around the fact that letter forms are somehow trump other kinds of material forms. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm interested in examining this question, but I also wonder if part of it is in the beholder. In this review, because you were offering illustration.
I perceive that it might be important to the artists, and of course how one uses image and text.
But what worked for me as a text in Martinez's work wasn't exactly the written words. It was the visual structure, the little pieces of the little backs with the pen. Because of this systematic approach and this consistency of the visual text. And I kept thinking there is a paradigmatic relation between those little frames and syntagmatic too. And there is also this diachronical dimension. So because of this systematic order of the visual part, it kept working on me as a text. And I kept believing that it's an organic, consistent piece of work that is textual.
Interesting.
So, actually, the written words did not work on me as a text. But the visual part, first, because of its beauty and the way you even I would say pedantically, but with following your intentionality, with complete awareness that this is how things should be, because this is a part of a very intimate, subjective narrative. So it was quite interesting to see how the text, the spoken, the written text didn't work as a text, but the visual part was really signifying in a very consistent way. And
you. Thank you.
At this point, it's 2:00, and being a moderator, I have to put my foot down and say that I'm sorry. We can continue this after unofficially, but just for now, for the filming's sake, I'm gonna have to say that we're gonna have to end. And I didn't think that we're gonna get into such a heated debate, which is great. So I thank all of my fellow panel presenters, and I thank them for their work, which I'm sure we all enjoyed immensely. And I thank you for your comments and, discussing it so openly here with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.